Advanced English Arabic Learning Session 54. You ruined my bust. The parade marched through the city center with drums beating and bayonets fixed. Firms will go bust. The interrogator asks why the soldier had been fighting and did not defect. That made her bust look bigger. But attempts should be made to redress the imbalance. The phrase was rendered into English. In war situation, one of the first casualties is the media, which is seized by one group or another. Waterspout. People know that they have to take what they read with a grain of salt. There was evidence of bias against foreign applicants. An unmissable target, so clear. The pickets induced many workers to stay away. She'd been drinking too much of late, recently. Comfortable chairs induce us to sit, relax, and become fat with digestion problems. The crooks finally croaked. The time scale of the budget. Nothing on earth could induce me to strip off at -10 degrees. Something resembling a fish scale. There will be no further interjections during the member's speech. To curtail materially the scale of its operations. No one foresaw the scale of the disaster. He scales the fish and removes the innards. These issues will be discussed more fully in the next section. The pair dated for 2 years until having an amicable split. The inauguration of an independent prosecution service. A taxi driver has died after being hit by falling masonry. Her whole life seemed to be ruled by fear. A small room with newspapers strewn all over the floor. He was quite quiet and I was too outgoing. The general consensus was that they were mad. She had a previous conviction for a similar offense. Rack your brain. A firmly held belief that the death was no accident. Radius, a straight line from the center to the circumference of a circle or sphere. She ladled out onion soup. Triangle is a plane figure with 3 straight sides and 3 angles. The hunt is afoot. Rectangle is a plane figure with 4 straight sides and 4 right angles. Irrefutable evidence. Parallelogram is a 4-sided plane rectilinear figure with opposite sides parallel. We are endgame. The discovery of antibiotic drugs has been helpful in treating acute infection. The glazed sections of the facade are at acute angles to the ground plane. Killings beget more killings. He has rightfully gained renown for his prolific writing and acute insight into current affairs. They were forced to go afoot. They are keen hunters with acute vision and feed primarily on waterfowl. Plans are afoot for the festival. The Renaissance Italians also had an acute insight into the importance of the balance of power. The hospital is closing Ward 5, which deals with acute medical patients. Ridiculous escapade. Children were caparaiing about the room. You are pregnant only for a short span of time, my dear. Known for her outspoken comments. I lingered in the hallways for a while admiring the artistic prints of money adorning the walls. I can't divulge what they said. I didn't back myself. She lingered in the yard, enjoying the warm sunshine. A cloud of steam. He steamed his shirts to remove the odor. Jeremy steamed in 10 minutes late. You got all steamed up over nothing. They managed to scrape a precarious living from the eggs laid by that one hen. She is expected to depart screens in May. You remember how precarious the company was after your father died. It succinctly covered all the salient points of the case. You could liken the current situation to: I have been known to be more of an owl than a fowl. Do you long for a life partner? I was overcome with acute nostalgia for my days in college. Racism is likened to a contagious disease. Leave a few mushrooms for garnish and slice the remainder. They likened the reigning emperor to a god. The tube is then subjected to a detonative shock. He bore a startling likeness to his father. Bodice, the part of a woman's dress, excluding sleeves, that is above the waist. The peculiarity of their upbringing. The economic debacle that became known as the Great Depression. Her likeness to him was astonishing. The law had been applied to motels to collect a tax from transients and vacationers. Stay 10 days at the least. 1 count of perverting the course of justice. He was charged with conspiring to pervert the course of justice and misconduct. Formal charges going to be laid against the officer concerned include perjury. He had been honor-bound to rid the country of a detestable tyrant. I feel honor-bound to keep his secret. The state is honor-bound to listen and act. All the faces simultaneously crumple with disbelief. He's willfully perverse. In 2 general elections the outcome was quite perverse. An evil life dedicated to perverse pleasure. He crumpled up the paper bag. The child's face crumpled and he began to howl. It is a perverse verdict and it is a miscarriage of justice in relation to costs. Kate's perverse decision not to cooperate held good. As the air is drawn through the ducts of the circulatory system, the air is cleansed of impurities. Inoperable cancer means untreatable. After a moment of composure, her face crumples and she begins to sob. The procedures were inoperable. The dangers posed by exposure to ultraviolet rays. A large fire rendered it inoperable. They are working on a raft of policies designed to create a more cohesive society. Furry creatures in fields. The Queen is above the law and cannot be subpoenaed. A layer of furry soot. His charm has captivated the media. He is endeavoring to help the Third World. Racketeering ensnared the economy. Officers detained the hysterical Finn, who had numerous self-inflicted wounds. Extortion is a felony in all states. The smoke was swirling around him. Swirl a little cream into the soup. Perseverance in the face of adversity is always a welcome attribute. Swirls of dust swept across the floor. She emerged with a swirl of skirts. This question is not meant to elicit an answer. Tatarstan demanded greater autonomy within the Russian Federation. Swirling is slang for interracial dating. It's still quite a way off to Glasgow. We're a long way off from Christmas. You could smell them a long way off. Economic autonomy is still a long way off for many women. She twirled her fork in the pasta. The sport of baton twirling. That is the criterion by which the arbitrator is to be guided. She did a twirl in front of the mirror. These contractors will be required to meet criteria to be eligible. She twirled in delight to show off her new dress. He postulated that the Americas were formed by the conjunction of floating islands. Give something a whirl, give a try. These pits are becoming breeding grounds for mosquitoes. Heroes rising above the mediocrity that surrounds them. Slinging dope is not our business. One notable exception is that only women shear sheep and only men shear goats. Selfless person. A blow of mild to moderate force with a knife could have inflicted such a wound. That what sets you apart. The speech itself was not the inflictor of the excruciating pain. Unprovoked attacks. The boredom of afternoon duty could be relieved by friendly conversation. To believe naively that leisure and luxury crystallize out of thin air. He had materialized out of thin air. The little man appeared out of thin air. She just vanished into thin air. Opportunities started coming out of thin air. All that effort, toil and rhetoric is finished, and now winners and losers have to face the results. It is plucked out of thin air. His theory postulated a rotatory movement for hurricanes. She had the lead in a new film. He still looks like a romantic lead. The air keening through the empty windows seems colder somehow. Many people are led astray by strong feelings. That leads him to contemplate his own life. He showed his contempt for his job by doing it very badly. He poked her in the ribs and pointed. Steam the vegetables until just tender. Volcanoes spouted ash and lava. One juror had the effrontery to challenge the coroner's decision. Walking with deliberate provocation. When the missile struck, the car disintegrated in a sheet of searing flame. Sorry, I cannot go on, I am talked out. I am really not with it this morning. Foreign firms have long decried the murky state of government procurement. The government decreed a ban on any contact with the guerrillas. The end. Coming next. Session 55.